Welcome, everyone, one and all, into the Blitz. I'm your host, Michael Barnaud. And with me today on the show is Chris Ferera, all the way from California. We will be discussing the release of the 2020 NFL schedule. We'll give you a couple games to watch throughout the course of the schedule. And then we will also throw in the first week. We will cover the week one extensively. Chris, welcome onto the show.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me. Today was like a second Christmas, with the last 3 months basically with no sports. And today, even just getting the schedule announced, I felt like it was football season again.
Well, I mean, that's just kind of how it's been for us. Every sports fan, even the smallest thing is like an event. It's like a heightened state of awareness. And so when this schedule got released, it was just kind of like, oh my gosh. It was, again, it's like the Super Bowl, just like the draft was. The draft went very well, went off without a hitch, broke a lot of ratings records, and this schedule release again felt like there was a lot of buildup to it because, hey, when you've got virtually nothing to work with, don't need much meat on the bone to feed us. So
yeah, and I think people just need something to be hopeful about, and the idea that hopefully we'll have football in the fall is something that will just keep us, positive, and rather than worry about the humdrum and gloom.
That's very true. I guess before we talk about anything else, I like the fact that the NFL kept the schedule the same, so they expect to play on schedule.
Yep. And they even added in some, precautionary measures with the schedule just in case if we're to start late. They announced that every team's week 2 opponent has the same bye week, just in case if they have to roll back the schedule a week or two, they'll be able to keep the schedule exactly the same, which I thought was really smart.
That was really smart. Another thing that was smart is they canceled all the international games. So there's no London game. There won't be a game played in Mexico City, so we don't have to worry about Mexico getting a field ready for us to play on. If you remember that from a couple of years ago, and I think it was the Chargers and the Chiefs were supposed to play in Mexico City, but
and then you don't have to worry if you're a team having to fly across the pond to play in London and have that totally ruin your schedule in the middle of the season.
Right, and for those of us who like to gamble on a sport now and then, doesn't throw a curveball at us when we realize the game's in London, not at a home or away here.
Or when you forget to check your fantasy lineup and you realize the game starts at 3 a.m. or something.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it also means no more marathon days where you're watching football from literally 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night. So bad news, football fans. But anyway, Chris, let's get to the schedule. First, anything you noticed generally? Any comments you want to make on the overall schedule or things you noticed?
So, I mean, I kind of had rumors about, obviously we knew certain games were going to happen because there was a lot of movement this year. I mean, I've never seen an offseason where more quarterbacks change teams. And obviously we know division matchups and we're going to get those specific games. So those were some highlights. But I wrote down a couple games that popped that I'm super excited about on the schedule. And I'll just go through them kind of rapid fire for you. The first one that popped in Week 8 is a rematch of the final game of the regular season between the Cowboys and the Eagles in Philadelphia. Okay. That game popped off to me because, as you love to say, Carson Wentz was able to beat that Cowboys team with deck chairs and lawn furniture, and now the Eagles are going to be revamped. In fact, they just got a brand new receiving core. They got 4 wide receivers this offseason, including the draft, including Marquise Goodwin of the 49ers, and they drafted Jalen Reagor. Yeah. And it's going to be, can Dak Prescott with this new offense win in Philly and after a subpar season last year?
Yeah, that's definitely, it's always a game to look forward to, but you have the two divisional in that division, the NFC East, you have the two teams that everyone's looking to win it in a showdown. So, to highlight that matchup, especially going into this year, which is a huge year for Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott, both of them facing major doubts about their viability as long-term franchise quarterbacks. So I think in the case of Wentz, he's got to prove will he even be there when they play that game? And then you have Dak Prescott, who Andy Dalton just came into town, and can he prove he's worth this contract that he wants him to sign and all that money? So that's a solid first pick. What else do you got?
Another one, obviously, we're going to talk about this matchup for week 1, but I wanted to focus on the week 9 matchup between the Buccaneers and the Saints. Obviously, the two 40-plus-year-old senior quarterbacks, Tom Brady versus Drew Brees. This one will be in Tampa Bay. I think Tom's at a little bit of a disadvantage week 1 because he's coming into a new team, no real offseason, so, he's going to have to go into there. Plus, we've mentioned that Drew Brees, I don't think he's going to have as much of the success that Tom has had once he's over the hill of 40. And I've personally been saying this all the offseason. I think the Saints are in for a little bit of a drop-off this year. I think Brees might fall off a cliff a little bit. And so I think that second matchup, Brees might get Tom in that first one, but that second matchup, I think in Tampa, it's going to be an awesome matchup. Plus, we got these two guys going to be going all season toe-to-toe for the touchdown record. I think Brady only trails them by like 5 or 6 touchdowns. So it's going to be cool to see them go back and forth. But that game could be the division on the line. I mean, it's only week 9, but still, it's the second meeting of them.
It could happen. And you do wonder with Drew Brees, it seems to happen earlier and earlier every year, where that moment later on the season where he falls off, it seems to happen sooner on the schedule. So is this the year that the bottom finally falls out and we're starting to see, late season Drew Brees, we're seeing him in week 5, week 6. Is this the year? So that's a question we'll have to watch. We're going to talk about all the week 1 stuff and we'll get to the rest of your games. I'll give you 2 of mine that I'm going with.
Perfect.
The first one I'm going for is the Dolphins and the Bengals. This one is in week 13. It's the timing that's everything. If this game was earlier, I would say not as much because you have 2 teams that will likely – I mean, in the case of the Bengals, they are obviously going to start Joe Burrow day 1. But in the case of the Dolphins with Tua, the Dolphins are likely going to wait. Fitzpatrick will probably start the first 4 games, and depending on how they're doing with Fitz at the helm, Tua could get involved earlier sooner rather than later. But I'm not really sure. And so by the time this game is played, we could be seeing a battle of the number 1 and the number 5 pick and Burrow versus Tua part 2. We saw them last year in the Alabama LSU game. So this game was intriguing when I saw it on the schedule. I said, wow. And there's another one later on that I'll get to. The second game I want to talk about, and this one, there's going to be a ton of points scored in it. The Chiefs and the Bucs.
Oh, yeah.
They play week 12. It's almost like they set up the schedule for the Buccaneers to get a bunch of great matchups that everyone's going to want to watch. It's in Tampa Bay, and Brady is going to have a lot of weapons. I bet you the over-under in this game is probably going to be at like 70, 60, which for an NFL game is crazy. It'll probably be about 60 for that game. And so those are some games I thought.
That's a great one. In fact, I think Tom and Mahomes have played each other every year that Mahomes has been a starter. And Tom's got the edge on him, I think 2-1, but Mahomes was able to get him last year. But Tom will be able to play him down in Tampa for this one. So that's going to be good. It's going to be fireworks. And yeah, I think you have 2 of the most highest-powered offenses and in the NFL in that matchup, so it's going to be exciting to watch.
Well, it will be great fun. So give me a couple more of yours. We'll go.
Okay. So I tried to be unbiased. I'm going to try to not put on the 49ers right now for you, but I want to give you guys some other good ones that I think are some really good ones. Again, the middle of the schedule I thought has just some firework games in the middle of the season. This one, so I'll do week 11 first. Week 11. Titans at the Ravens, rematch of the playoff game where the Titans were, the first team besides obviously the 49ers in the rain, but the first team to really shut Lamar Jackson down and show that, okay, he was the regular season MVP, but once you take away his arm basically and he can't just run. He can't just run around and everything. Can you make him throw? Or sorry, I should have said take away his legs and force him to throw. He wasn't able to do that. And Derrick Henry ran roughshod all over that team. Right. So I think Baltimore is going to have, something to prove in that game. We'll see if Tannehill is able to continue what he was able to do last year with Tennessee. But that game last year was in Baltimore. This one will be in Baltimore again. So it'll be does Tennessee have the the magical keys to shutting down that potent
Right.
Ravens offense, or will the Ravens be able to figure it out and continue?
Will they be able to solve? Will they solve the Titans' defense? Something to keep an eye on in that game. The Titans lost Jarrell Casey, who played
Yes.
inside. You kind of look at a guy like Casey, and really he's like Rob Ninkovich in that he doesn't look like a guy who would be that good, but he's actually a very excellent inside run defender, and he was an underrated reason why Tennessee's run defense was pretty stiff last year, and a big reason why they were able to give the Ravens trouble in that playoff game. He's gone and signed with Denver. So that's something to keep an eye on when that matchup rolls around.
Yep.
We'll see where both teams are at in the standings.
And as we said, Baltimore last year, who famously ran that 3 tight end formation, they've lost some of their tight ends. So they will have to try to figure out something more. Hayden Hurst, who was their backup tight end, has gone to Atlanta. And that's what made them so potent. They could run that 2-3 tight end formation, and you didn't know if they were running or throwing. And there's rumors that Antonio Brown could be going there. I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen, but Baltimore's offense is just unique. Lamar's still in that young enough age that his legs can cause problems on any given down.
Yeah, Greg Roman. Greg Roman is the offensive coordinator. Doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion. He was the architect behind the 49ers offense when they were utilizing Colin Kaepernick. And I knew, because when I looked into that a couple weeks ago, I knew I'd seen this offense before. I was like, this offense looks really similar to what the 49ers did with Kaepernick when Jim Harbaugh was over there. And now Greg Roman goes from 49ers to go work with his brother John, and he puts together the same offense. So kind of cool. What's your other game that you have?
The other one that I wanted to touch on, and you mentioned Jarrell Casey going to Denver, and actually this is a game I was looking at a Denver game. I was going to put the Kansas City game, but, I think Kansas City is just head and shoulders above the rest of the AFC right now. But the game that I think is super interesting is Week 10, Broncos at the new Vegas Stadium, Broncos-Raiders. Again, divisional matchup. Both those teams, they have to compete with Kansas City's offense. So what did they do this offseason? They loaded up. Both of them went and got Alabama wide receivers in the draft. I think they both have cars in kind of a prove-it year, but they brought in Mariota just in case. Gruden will figure it out. I mean, last year they had a really good year with that running game and Jacobs. I think the Broncos could sneaky be a potential playoff team, and I think both of these teams, that's a game that could have playoff implications on the line, because I could see either one of those teams getting in as a wild card team this year.
I actually I agree. I thought it was fascinating watching the AFC West, how you saw each of them approach this draft. You saw two totally different approaches. In the case of the Broncos and the Raiders, they both said, okay, we play in a division with Kansas City. We got to try and run with them, which could prove absolutely pointless, because do you have a Pat Mahomes that can deliver the ball is the other question. And so, but you saw each of them kind of get into an arms race with Kansas City and say, all right, we need to get more talented so we can try to run with these guys. And then the Chargers went the other direction, drafted heavy on the defense. They're going in big on the defense and saying, okay, we can't keep up with Kansas City, but maybe we can slow them down to play with us. We'll see whose approach works better.
I mean, the Chargers last year, they almost took Kansas City down in Mexico. It was a Phillip Rivers, flailing pick at the end of the game that lost in that game. So I think the Chargers feel confident that they can compete with Kansas City, because they do have skill players. But that division, that whole AFC West is fascinating to me, because everybody's trying to catch up to Kansas City, and they're all doing it in their own unique ways. The Broncos skill players, they are nasty. They have, you get Melvin Gordon, you got Noah Fant from Iowa, who's like a mini George Kittle. You have, Lindsey, the other running back, who just a year ago was a breakout star. And now their receiving core with Sutton, Judy, and then Hamlin, the guy from Penn State. They have weapons. Yeah. It's all going to be if Locke can take the next step his second year.
Yeah, it's like we've seen two teams that just upgraded massively. So it's like the more explosive Raiders and Broncos square off in Vegas. So I like the thought of that. I like the thought of hopefully Brandon and Shane don't get into a fight that weekend.
Yep.
I'll give you a couple games. I'm glad you kind of didn't do the bias thing, go with the Niners a lot. I did put them in. Them Week 10, This game last year was an amazing football game. They play the Saints in Week 10 in the Dome again. Which we'll see if they even allow teams to play in domes this year, just because of this coronavirus thing. But that game last year was an instant classic, and it has the potential to be that again. I really like that matchup in Week 10. 49ers at Saints. I love the 49ers pass rush. Love the fact they drafted Nick Bosa. I mean, again, proof right there that getting it right on one pick, if that guy's an elite pass rusher, can change your whole defense. So, and you kind of made that point about drafting Chase Young, and why you do it is because Nick Bosa coming onto the 49ers roster totally took that defense to another level. So that one's really going to be fun to watch. Really looking forward to that.
Not to mention New Orleans took away Emmanuel Sanders from the 49ers, and now he's over there. So that game last year, I was like on my hands and knees in my living room screaming and yelling. And when Kittle got that last option route that he broke the tackles, I went insane. So that game's going to be gnarly if they play in that dome. Again, depending if fans are in there. It was so loud last year. I'm so pissed. I'm like, why do we have to go back to that dome? Why couldn't we play them at home this year?
But every time they meet up, it's great. They met in the divisional playoffs back in 2012 in the Bay. One of the last game at the Candlestick.
One of Alex Smith's last great 49er games.
It was. Taking away Emmanuel Sanders. By the way, if you haven't seen that play Chris is talking about where Kittle catches the option route, go look it up. George Kittle, Saints. It's a beast mode play.
He punches 4 Saints players in the faces as they're trying to drag him down and drag them 15 yards.
And it's funny, if you watch the replay and just watch the Saints sideline, you can see one of their assistant coaches say drop the F-bomb. when he sees the guy face masks Kittle, he's like, oh. Dude, it's funny. Legit. So if you haven't seen it, go check out that play. The other game that I wanted to get to, I think is a great game to watch, Chiefs-Ravens, Week 3. These two teams they've actually played each of the last 2 seasons in the regular season. And it, again, highlights a matchup of 2 young quarterbacks. One, I believe, does not have long to be a star in the league. That's Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes. And we get to see this matchup yet again. This time it's in Baltimore. Both times before they played in Kansas City. Finally, Kansas City has to go to play in Baltimore. I think it's a great matchup. It's a tough matchup for the Chiefs. And because the Ravens, again, are built well to give the Chiefs problems on both sides of the ball. So some thoughts on that.
They went and got Calais Campbell, too. So that Ravens defense already last year was really good. And now their D-line is going to be even better this year.
Well, the big thing the Ravens did, and they've drafted well. Ravens have traditionally been a team that drafts well. They went after the weak spot in their defense. They upgraded the defensive line, getting Calais Campbell from the Jaguars, and they got him for nothing. You look back on it. It was a great move by Ravens personnel brass to get Campbell up there. They also drafted heavy inside linebacker. They went with Patrick Queen. I'm not a huge fan of him from LSU, but talented. He was rated highly by a lot of people, and they also took Malik Harrison from Ohio State. So they tried to shore up the problems on D, and so they should be looking good again on that side of the ball.
Patrick Queen in that national championship game was all over the place.
Oh, he was. It really was. I mean, the thing is, and it's too. I'm not going to get into it. I've dedicated a whole talk to that. You can go and look back on that if you want to listen to why I don't love Patrick Queen. But let's just say that Malik Harrison was my first choice, and they got him too. So the Ravens should be very tough on defense next year. That's a storyline to follow. What are your last 2 games to watch?
So last 2, again, it was so hard to cut this down. So I'm going to give you one. And then I'm going to give you the 49er game last. So this game, I just think, again, you just said a Saints game. This is week 16. This is Christmas Day. We're going to get Vikings Saints. And it's going to be the 3rd time. I think the Vikings fans know, the Saints fans know the Vikings pretty well. And they've had their seasons eliminated twice, I think, in the last 3 years by the Vikings in horrific fashion. And so that game brings a lot of baggage. It's on Christmas. I got some friends that are both Saints and Vikings fans that are amped for that game because they hate these two franchises. I think hate each other now, especially with what's happened recently. And the Vikings, I honestly think they could win the division this year. They could take the next step because I foresee Green Bay maybe taking a step back. And the Vikings, and again, that's week 16. We'll see how Drew Brees is feeling at the end of that thing. Maybe, who knows, Jameis Winston might be the quarterback in that game, but that'll be a good game. And then my last one. So I wanted to give 2 honorable mentions before I say my last one. I won't go into too much detail and waste too much time. Week 13, Monday Night Football, 49ers versus Bills. Oh my God. Wow. That game is going to be a defensive slobber knocker because both those defenses are top notch. And Josh Allen is going to give the 49ers defense some fits because we don't do well against mobile quarterbacks, really. So I think that one, Monday Night Football, is going to be a great one because the Bills could win the AFC East this year. Another one I want to highlight real quick. Week 14, 49ers at the Dallas Cowboys. That game is going to be huge because I feel like the playoffs are going to be on the line for both of those teams. It's in Dallas. It's going to be a huge test for Dak. Dak already had last year, when on Thanksgiving when he had to face the Bills and that great defense and what happened to him in that game. I think it's going to be a huge game. The Cowboys season could be on the line. 49ers season could be on the line because the NFC West is so stacked. And that being week 15, huge matchup of two potential high-powered offenses and defenses. And then the last one, this is the one I actually wanted to talk about. The number one game on my schedule is week 17, Seahawks at 49ers. It is the rematch of last year's 2 epic games. The one in the Bay Area on Monday Night Football where Jadeveon Clowney completely wrecked the game. And then the last one in Seattle where Dre Greenlaw tackles Hollister like an inch from the goal line, which gets the Niners the 1 seed and gets the Seahawks the 5 seed. Again, 2 teams that have over the last decade since Harbaugh and Carroll and now Shanahan and Carroll have just gone back and forth. These 2 teams don't like each other. Richard Sherman hates his old team. They don't like him. And the division could be decided in that game like it was this last year. So I think that's going to be – as a 49er fan, that is the game that I'm just like, I mean, I know we got to win the other ones, but still, I know it could come down to Seattle in week 17.
All right. Well, some solid picks. Solid. I'll get to my last 2. I have the Chargers. I'll start with the lesser one of the 2. Chargers, Dolphins, October 25th. Again, timing is everything with this one. Will we see Tua by then? And with the Chargers, the question is, have things gone tits up by the time they've gotten to October 25th? And like, okay, got to play Herbert now. I know the organization has said, okay, we're not going to play him until he's ready, but circumstances change. And if they're losing games and they're like 1-5, 1-4, they're in that boat. Do you really want to stick with Tyrod Taylor? I mean, you don't have that much longer. Even though I'm sure they like Lynn, have confidence in him. If his job is on the line, he's going to play Herbert and say, all right, to hell with it. I'm just going for it with this rookie, and we're just going to throw him in there because, we need a change up, and we might as well just get him in now. So hopefully that happens. If not, just ignore this one. Probably be a forgettable game if Herbert's not in there. And I'm a Dolphins fan. I'm wearing, some turquoise and orange and white to represent. It's not a team shirt, but it could be if easily. But this is a game I think is one to watch. If Herbert and Tua are both starting in it, it will be one we could get into. And the last one, this is a divisional matchup, just like when you talked about earlier with the Eagles going against the Cowboys. What a fierce matchup that was. This one, I think, is going to be a return to the old days when this one used to be just a backyard brawl where people were hitting each other with chairs and dropping through tables. The Ravens and the Steelers, particularly when the Ravens are on offense. I mean, this is just going to be an absolute slobber knocker. The Steelers front 7 is physical as hell and proved last year that they can win games with their defense alone with how talented it is. Devin Bush, an inside backer, Cam Hayward on the D-line. You have TJ Watt, a legit defensive player of the year candidate. Minkah Fitzpatrick on the back end versus that Ravens team. And if Big Ben comes back, the Steelers are my pick to win the AFC North. I believe it's going to be the Steelers, not the Ravens. Everyone's picking the Ravens.
I know everyone's saying Ben's going to fall off a cliff, and I'm like, really last year was just the 1 year. I mean, it's a devastating injury. I can't speak. Devastating injury to have your elbow pop as a 36, 37-year-old quarterback.
Yeah.
But I think if he's right, that Steelers team can. I mean, they almost made the playoffs last year with Duck Hodges. Who the hell is Duck Hodges?
Right.
That team, that team. If they had competent quarterback play and Mason Rudolph, and again, he's nothing to shine at.
No.
I think if Ben comes back, the Steelers could be giving the Ravens a run for their money. And everyone is still saying that Cleveland is going to be the one in there. And I didn't buy into Cleveland last year. I think they'll be better this year. Obviously, Baker will have a chip on his shoulder, but I still think the Steelers and Ravens run that division.
Right. I think so too. They're just two really well-run organizations from top to bottom. Great. They both have great GMs, solid ownership. And each of them have great head coaches. Mike Tomlin, he catches a lot of flack for not winning a lot of the big game or whatever. But Mike Tomlin's a solid head coach. Last year was an incredible coaching job by him.
Yeah.
But that to me is a highlighter. I really am looking forward to watching those games. I think they're going to be a blast. A quick comment on Ben Roethlisberger's offseason program. They say that he's been doing like a yoga workout a week and drinking beer. And I'm like, how is that any different than any of his past off seasons? I don't put much stock in it. Ben Roethlisberger's not a workout nut. It's just like Tom Brady said, that's not what quarterbacking is about in the NFL. I agree. I think, you don't need to be a star athlete. And Big Ben's he's my kind of quarterback. Yeah. I like that. So, all right. So we're done with that segment of the show. We're going to move on to our week 1 analysis and betting lines. We're going to include the line. And then I am going to ask Chris, after we do each of these matchups, we will discuss the matchup briefly. And then I will ask him based on straight up or teaser if he thinks he would take it. So take or break, or don't go there. So our first matchup, we have the Texans at the Chiefs, week 1. One more comment before we go further. I'm sorry about that. One more thing. The reason why I'm only going to talk about week 1 and I didn't want to talk too much about the back end of the schedule is because in the NFL, things change all the time. One team comes in, we thought they're going to be good. Take the Chargers last season. We think they're going to be great, and they come in and they're just pitiful. And then a game gets flexed out of the schedule. And some teams come in, we don't think much of them, and they do better than we thought. So I'm focusing on week 1, and that's what we're going to talk about. So without any further ado, the Chiefs are a 10-point favorite at home against the Texans. What do you think of this one, Chris?
I'll throw my money on the Chiefs because if anybody watched that playoff game last year, the Titans, I still don't think know how to guard Kansas City. And Bill O'Brien, the Texans still don't know how to guard Kansas City. Yep. And I don't think Bill O'Brien knows what the hell is going on over there. No. He's made some major moves. They got rid of their number 1 wide receiver. I mean, I don't really hate the moves because they brought in other skill players like David Johnson, and they brought in a wide receiver. Oh, man, his name just escaped me. Is it Kenny Stills? They have Kenny Stills.
Well, they had Kenny Stills last year.
They have another wide receiver that they just brought in, and it's just escaped me. But either way, I mean, it's the Deshaun Watson show, and it's all riding on him. Week 1, though, J.J. Watt will be healthy. We don't have to maybe worry about him being hurt. So he could be making plays. But I still think I'll take Kansas City in that matchup at home with defending when they got the banners coming down. Yeah, I'll take Kansas.
And on my end, if you're talking about the Chiefs, if you're talking about who's going to win the game, obviously I'm taking the Chiefs. But it's funny, last season the Texans actually beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead earlier in the year. And then the Chiefs obviously came back and, whomped them in the playoffs. But it is a hard matchup because I believe the Texans are fatally flawed to play the Chiefs. Not athletic enough on defense. They're more solid against the run. The pass rush is not elite. J.J. Watt has not been the force in recent years that he was, about 3 or 4 years ago.
They just lost their best corner. He went to Denver.
Right. So the pass defense was already shaky. Well, not even shaky, bad. It was ranked toward the bottom of the league. And now it's going to be even worse. So not surprised to see a big spread there. I personally wouldn't bet it at all if it was me. I wouldn't take it. Just the line is too much. Whenever I see I mean, I get it, but whenever I see a line that big, it tends to scare me away.
I mean,
But
last year everyone said the Patriots were going to have a Super Bowl hangover, and they played the Steelers on week 1, and they just absolutely pummeled them. It was a drubbing. So I could see KC doing that.
Well, I agree. I mean, I could actually see all that happening. And one of the biggest reasons is because if you don't have an athletic front four, it's really going to be hard on you to give Pat Mahomes any kind of trouble because he's more mobile than people think. A lot of people underestimate how fast Mahomes is. He's actually a pretty good athlete back there.
Yeah.
And if you don't have an athletic D line that can get after him the way the Niners gave him so much trouble, he's proven it time and again. I mean, he's dynamite back there. So you would take the Chiefs with the 10-point spread?
Yeah, 10 points. I might not even bet on this game, but if I was gonna bet on it, I would bet Kansas City to cover.
I'd say give me the bullet.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next matchup. We have the Packers at the Vikings. By the way, all our odds are provided at DraftKings.com. The Vikings are a 3.5-point favorite. What do you think of that, Chris?
And this game's in Minnesota, right?
It is in Minnesota.
Now, 3.5 points, that's, so that means Minnesota's got to win by more than a field goal. And I could see this going either of two ways. I think Minnesota's the better team. I don't think the Packers have enough skill players to, around Aaron Rodgers to really keep up. And, last year, besides the playoff game, the Vikings offense was really potent, that running game that they had with Dalvin Cook. But I could see some piss and vinegar in Aaron Rodgers wanting to prove everybody wrong, and the first game going against a division rival and getting a win. The Vikings did lose a lot of their defense. They lost some D linemen, so
yeah.
I could see.
And they totally cleaned house in the secondary. They got rid of everybody. The corners anyway. They got rid of the corners.
So I could see Green Bay winning this game, but I think Minnesota is probably the smart bet on this because I think Green Bay is a ticking time bomb waiting to happen. I think Aaron Rodgers at any moment could just be like, to hell with this, and the locker room could be in flux. So, but because it's week 1, I still give Green Bay a puncher's chance. I mean, they did win that division last year.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I understand some of it. Like, it's this matchup's very intriguing to me. Me and Francois have talked about, my brother Francois, we've talked on my channel about the fact that the Packers are the worst NFC Championship team we've ever seen.
Ever.
Last year. They got the perfect schedule. Everything set up perfectly. Detroit lost their quarterback. Bears had Trubisky. And the Vikings were their only legitimate competition in conference. And it's like they got almost everything to fall exactly the way they needed it to. But if you want to talk about the biggest phony ever being in the NFC Championship game, it was the Packers of last season. Nobody thought that team was that great. But
I think they went 7-1 in one-score games. They just somehow were able to win all these close games.
But such a flawed team when I watched them. I'm like, they're so. I mean, I'm trying to find out what they're great at. Like, they're not really great at anything. Devontae Adams, the only guy outside that can do anything. And Aaron Jones was a revelation at running back. But again, the running game is not like dangerous. But in this game, over 3.5 in a divisional game is it's a large number, but I would take the Vikings to win this one.
Yeah, I think Green Bay will get in their own way, but then again, Green Bay beat them twice, I think, last year.
They did. And they beat them in Minnesota.
But I think Minnesota has the recipe to beat them. You run the ball against Green Bay, and Green Bay, even though they want to run the ball with LaFleur's game plan, he wants to use those backs. In fact, they drafted a third running back in the second round this year, which to me makes no goddamn sense.
None. I'm shocked at that.
And when you already have two decent running backs, so Aaron's not going to want to sit there and hand the ball off. They're going to want to throw. And now Aaron's good enough to throw, but I still think that they'll get into some trouble, and I think Minnesota wins the game.
All right. And I wouldn't bet it. I wouldn't even bet the teaser. And another thing that, like, I'm a teaser guy. So like in the NFL, I do teasers because I think there's value in it when you do NFL games. Bet just a little bit of advice for anyone who is listening who likes to bet on football, thinking about betting on it. Never tease a college game. Only tease NFL games.
Yeah,
is just some advice. So. I would not take either one in this game. I would not bet it. I don't know enough about either of these teams. So not going to stay away from this one too on my end. So the next matchup we got to talk about, we're going to stay in the NFC North for another matchup. This one is a game I don't know if anyone's going to watch in week 1. The Bears are at the Lions, and the Lions are a 1-point favorite. I have seen the Lions around as a pick'em, but they're a 1-point favorite in this game. At first, it showed the Bears were the favorite, and I was like, on what planet would the Bears be the favorite with Mitch Trubisky or a total question mark in Nick Foles? What do you think, Chris?
Woof. I don't know what to do with this because I think the Lions are probably a better team, but I don't trust their head coach, and I trust the Bears head coach, but I don't trust their quarterback.
Exactly.
So, I think it really depends. Like, Matthew Stafford could win this game on his own somehow, but the Bears defense could somehow win this game. I mean, Trubisky went and won like 12 or 13 games 2 years ago.
Right.
So I think it's whoever wants to shoot themselves in the foot. This game's going to be in a dome in Detroit. The Lions just added another running back. 1 point. Let me take Detroit because Detroit does play decent at the beginning of the year. In fact, last year I think Detroit started like 2-0 before they fell apart.
Well, with Matthew Stafford last year when he was healthy, they were a pretty good team. They gave the Chiefs a run in Detroit. They played good football. They almost beat Green Bay at Lambeau, a place Detroit never wins and usually doesn't even play Green Bay close there. And so they actually, with Stafford, they were not bad. So in this game, it's like you pointed out, like all the problems on both sides. But there's, as a rule of thumb, when I look at betting a game, if I know enough about two teams, the tiebreaker to me is usually who's got the better quarterback. In this game, but Nick Foles with Matt Nagy, I mean, they have history. And I expect him to win the job. I'm going to say right now, I believe Nick Foles is going to win that job in camp. I think Trubisky will get benched. The offense is simply not big. It's way too conservative and just not explosive. They don't get the plays they need with Trubisky. He can't stretch the field. So with Foles, they can stretch the field, and he will. I mean, he's got that nickname for a reason. I won't say it on this channel, but he's got that name for a reason. So again, but this one on the teaser, I would have taken the Lions if they had remained to pick them. But in order to do that with this one, if I tease the Lions with the 7 points, I'd only get them up to a 6-point dog. Another rule of thumb in sports betting is you don't tease through 0. And unless you're real confident that team's going to win. But this one doesn't qualify. Way too many question marks. It's week 1. You really got to go with what you think you know, or you got to go with history in week 1. And I don't like this game at all, to be honest. Some thoughts from you. Some final thoughts.
Yeah, both franchises, both teams. The Bears just annoy me. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Trubisky and Foles in this game. They both might be taking snaps at some point in this game.
In the same formation.
I mean, not necessarily that, but would not surprise me if they were on a rotation or if somebody, Foles got hurt in week 1 last year, then Minshew had to come in. Mm-hmm. Trubisky didn't even get his 5th year picked up by the Bears, so I think they're done with him. So I think you're right when Foles is starting this. And then if I have to choose between Foles versus Stafford, I'm going to go with Stafford. And the Lions drafted Okudah, so they have a corner now.
They do.
So hopefully their defense can be – I always want the Lions to do good, and they always just piss me off and just are mediocre every year.
Well, Matt Patricia, he's kind of been a dud. But the truth is, last year, this is the reason why I'm not going to bail on him yet, is because the Lions were not a bad team last year when they had their quarterback. And you ask anyone in the NFL, if you lose your franchise quarterback – and you need Jeff Driscoll to win you a game, you're not going to win. you're not going to win many games. I mean, it would be a hell of a job to even make the playoffs. Look what happened with the Steelers last year when they lost their franchise quarterback. Even the Steelers could not go. If you lose your franchise quarterback early in the season, it's pretty much a death sentence. So I'm gonna give the Trish one more year.
One more.
Got one more year. All right, moving on to the next matchup: Dolphins Patriots. Week 1.
This
Patriots
is
hosting.
This is in Foxborough. Flores, he just beat Belichick in their last matchup to end the season. The Patriots, obviously, first time in like 20 years, don't have Tom Terrific back there. I think the Dolphins have their number, but as we've talked before, whenever Miami has to go to Foxborough, it spells trouble for them. If this game was in Miami, I might take Miami, but I think that Patriots defense is still damn good, and Fitzpatrick will put the ball in Trouble's way up there. I don't foresee the Dolphins. And, who knows? Is Tua going to win the job? That might be a wild card if he wins the job in the offseason and is playing. That could be something because Belichick struggles a little bit against those mobile quarterbacks, especially if he's never seen them. But I think the Patriots, even with Stidham, I think they're able to win this game. It's like a close game. What was the line? What did you tell me the line was?
Oh, I hadn't gotten to the line yet. I was just letting you do your analysis at first. Okay. But the line is Patriots -7.5. They opened at -9. But
oh God, Jesus, right? I didn't even know.
7.5 point favorite.
I thought this one might be like a 3 or a 4, and then I'm taking New England. But Jesus, 7.5. My God, I don't even know if I want to touch this game now.
It's a stash of points to put on Jared Stidham, is what I'm saying.
In the first start for Stidham, Jesus, I don't know if I'd take that.
Well, here's what I'll say. First off, I believe Fitzpatrick will start the year. I don't believe. I mean, he would have to blow Fitzpatrick away. Tua would have to blow him away in fall camp for them to start the year with Tua as the starter. I think the Dolphins are happy to play Fitzpatrick early on. Fitzpatrick has a rule of thumb. And now I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't touch this game with a 10-foot pole. That's a total hot potato for me because – and here's why. There are several quarterbacks in this league I will not bet for or against ever under any circumstances. Ryan Fitzpatrick is one of them because you just don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Week in, week out. I've seen him go into games and throw 3 picks in the first half. And then I've seen him take Miami up to Foxborough and beat them for the first time in 20 years in Foxborough. And I told Francois, my brother Francois, I told him before that game, I said, listen, if there's one dude that can do this, it's Fitzpatrick. And he didn't believe me.
He screwed the entire AFC playoffs up by going and doing that because the Patriots were about to be the number 2 seed and get the bye, and now KC gets the bye and doesn't have to play in the first round. And then Belichick and Brady get beat in the first round.
It's crazy how it all worked out.
Yeah.
So anyway, I wouldn't touch it. What about you?
No, I'm not touching it. Not when I heard that line. I thought if it was like, a pick 'em or a 3-point, I'm taking New England, but no, not with all those points. No,
but I would not take it either. On to the next game. Now this one's a shocker. The line on this one is recency bias. I think it's strictly recency bias that this line's as big as it is. Jets at the Bills. The Bills are a 6.5 point favorite.
Ooh.
I don't like that at all. I think that line's wrong. The Jets with Sam Darnold are not a bad football team.
No, but I would take Buffalo in that line. They're home, and that defense is damn good. And now they added Stephon Diggs for Josh Allen. They're a playoff team, the Bills. And I think, I love Sam Darnold. Trust me, I'm a USC fan. I still have not been able to see the consistency, though, that I want to see. I definitely think he's a starting quarterback. I hope this year he takes the next step. But if we're talking week 1, now it's basically a home game for both of them. They're both in New York. But, I got to go with Bills Mafia in this game. I'll take the 6.5 points.
I think swallow the points.
I'll swallow the points, man, and I'll take the Bills.
All right. Well, a little history on this game. The Bills actually squared off with the Jets last year in the first week, if you remember. And in that game, the Jets jumped up 16-0 until C.J. Mosley got hurt, left the game. The Bills came back and won it. But C.J. Mosley's back and healthy, and when he was on that Jets defense, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, they need him to be healthy before they can actually get that investment to pay off, which it does actually when he's healthy. C.J. Mosley is a Pro Bowl caliber inside linebacker for the Jets. So we got to see how that situation plays out.
The thing is,
what.
I don't trust Adam Gase. I don't trust him because you get Le'Veon Bell, and he's a great back, and I'm hearing he already wants to get rid of him after 1 year. And they brought in Frank Gore, who I love. I mean, he's 37, and he's a great backup and veteran. But I'm hearing rumors already after a week of Gore being there is that Gase could be using him and giving him like 100 to 150 carries because he's coached Gore 3 different other places in San Francisco and Miami. So I don't know what Gase is doing. Like, that's what scares me about the Jets is him.
We haven't known what Gase was doing ever since he gave us the googly eyes at that conference.
Yeah.
He was hired to be the coach.
Like, trust me, I would love to see Frank Gore get 150 carries. I want him to catch Walter Payton and move up the list. But if you're the Jets and you have Le'Veon Bell, why would you ever give Frank more carries than Le'Veon?
I mean, I don't understand that. I don't really understand that one either. But, this is a game that this is a game, the number is a number you would tease, okay? Mm-hmm. Like you would take, if you love the Bills to win this game, let's say you did, which I don't love them to win this game. You would tease them down to pick them. So the number's good if you want to tease this one. But I would not tease either direction because, again, too many question marks, but I think that line's too big, in my opinion. Yeah. You'd swallow the points.
I'd swallow it. I'd go with more consistency. That Buffalo defense is nasty, and the Bills' offense, I thought, got better. Sam Darnold lost his favorite weapon in Robbie Anderson. He went to Carolina, and they brought Brashad Perriman, who was balling at the end of the year for Tampa, but it's like we'll see if he's going to be, have that chemistry with Sam.
That's, something definitely to watch. So those are some thoughts on the Jets and Bills. The next one up, Browns, Ravens. It's in Baltimore. 2 solid run games going at it. What's going to happen in this one? Ravens are a 7.5-point favorite. Some thoughts?
7.5. So Cleveland actually played Baltimore tough last year. I think both times they played them. Did they beat them last year? Or did Baltimore beat them twice?
They did. No, the Browns beat them. The first time they played them, they beat them bad too, actually, in Baltimore.
Right. They beat them early bad, and then Baltimore came back and beat the hell out of them towards the end.
The second time, yes.
But so this is a prove-it game for I think Baker Mayfield's going to have a giant chip on his shoulder in this game. The problem is it's on the road. Baltimore's going to have a chip on its shoulder too because they are not happy with how last year ended. But I think Myles Garrett's going to be back for this game, right?
He will be.
It's over.
Yep, it's over.
So that'll be huge. Again, the Browns have a damn good offense. I mean, this is how I think Cleveland can win this game. You can't just sit and try and make Odell Beckham Jr. happy. Run the ball with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Run the ball, control the clock. You have 2 awesome tight ends too, in Hooper and Njoku now. Do play action, hit your tight ends, use Landry and Odell to take the top off. That's a way that Cleveland could win this game. So you said 7.5 points. I'm not touching this game because I don't know who the hell would win this game.
It's funny you say that because the Ravens, yet again with Lamar Jackson, he's another quarterback that I refuse to bet on or against because Lamar Jackson is not as dynamic as people think. He actually plays mostly within the offense. If you watch, he's not that good at extending the play. Like Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, those guys are masters of creating things. Like they extend plays, they know how to use their mobility and their arm when they do it. Lamar Jackson's actually not that good at it. And up to this point in his career, if teams have schemed him up and they put him in a situation where he must throw, tell you what, if you've bet on Lamar Jackson and you're down 2 scores, I'm not feeling good right now. So
no,
I would not touch it either. But I will say I think the Browns have the talent to play in this game mostly. The question's going to be on the defensive front 7. Because that's where it all starts with the Ravens. If you're going to defend the Ravens, you need to be disciplined and physical in the front 7. If you're not both of those things, you can't stop this offense. End of story. So I wouldn't touch it, but very intriguing for sure. The AFC North is going to be a blast to watch.
Yeah, it is.
So let's move on to the next one. Colts, Jaguars. Jaguars are a 6.5-point dog at home.
Yeah. Ugh. So they're home. Indy, I think, has a really good team this year. The question mark for me is you brought Phillip Rivers in. So now you got old man Rivers.
Old man
Rivers. Captain in this squad on the road in Jacksonville. Jacksonville is a team I don't know how to analyze because Gardner Minshew is another one of those quarterbacks that is like Ryan Fitzpatrick, who literally can implode or just have fireworks of a game because he can just run around and he just makes these insane, like Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson style plays sometimes, and then immediately goes back to being, subpar and awful. He actually was really good, I think, for his first half of his starts last year.
He didn't do bad.
No, he had actually a great, I think, interception to touchdown ratio. And I mean, the Jags weren't winning games, but he was keeping them in games. So I don't know. I think the Colts beat that. What was the number on this?
6.5 points. If you want to take the Colts, you need them to win by 7 or more.
Oh my God. Indy's the better team. I think you should take Indy here. It would not surprise me though if Jacksonville made this like a 3-point game or something.
It wouldn't surprise me either. Well, first off, it's in division. Divisional games oftentimes are very close, and I see too much. I see a lot with the Colts that tells me they are probably the favorite in the AFC South.
Mm-hmm.
You get old man River. If he actually has a line to protect him, he's got a catapult, even if it literally is a catapult the way he throws it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also would not touch it. Again, line is teasable. This is a good line to tease. If you love the Colts to win, you really like the Colts, take them. I'm not convinced, though. Again, too many question marks surrounding the Jaguars. Like you said, don't know how to analyze them.
This is a game in Florida in still like the late summer, early fall. So it's going to be hot. That could give the Jaguars, the benefit of the doubt.
Yep, definitely.
That's why I don't know if I want to touch this game.
I'll tell you the truth. I wouldn't want to touch it either. So without any further ado, let's not touch it and move on. The Raiders at the Panthers is our next matchup. Panthers are a 1-point dog at home in Carolina. What are your thoughts?
I'm so excited for this game because I'm excited for both of these franchises this year. I feel like I'm the only one taking crazy pills who thinks Carolina might actually be pretty decent this year. I know everyone doesn't think Teddy Bridgewater is the guy, but Christian McCaffrey is the most skilled position player in the NFL. They now have two offensive minds in there in Matt Rule and Joe Brady to kind of orchestrate this offense. You brought in Robbie Anderson. Carolina's offense is going to be good. The problem last year was their defense. They drafted 7 guys in the draft to shore up that defense. And the Raiders, on the other end, again, I think the Raiders are super exciting. It's going to we'll see who wins the quarterback job. If Gruden wants to go with Mariota, I think Carr starts the year as the quarterback. But you never know because him and Gruden apparently don't get along. This is an exciting game. I think, what was the line you said? Carolina is favored by 1?
Carolina is a 1-point underdog.
Man, here's why I think I might go Carolina. This is one thing that happens all the time in the NFL, and rarely does a West Coast team travel to the East Coast and have to play at 10 a.m. and win.
That's correct. I was going to say that's something that is something that you should keep in mind with this game is that a West Coast team playing a 1 o'clock Eastern time game, that's 10 a.m. on the West Coast to those guys. That's a tough game for a West Coast team. So I agree in a lot of ways, but I personally think the Raiders are the team to beat here because I think the Raiders have the better roster top to bottom. The reason everyone's sleeping on the Panthers is because you have the 4th best quarterback in division. Arguably. I mean, it depends, depending on which Drew Brees shows up on a given day, you've got the 4th best QB in the league. And you have a new head coach. Sometimes that can be good. Defensively, there are a lot of holes. They were awful on that side of the ball last year. On offense, is Teddy Bridgewater, can he make the offense, truly dynamic? Can he stretch the field vertical and get teams to, stop or to not bunch up against Christian McCaffrey and really go after him. Is Bridgewater good enough to do that? I personally think no. Like that's just my thought on Bridgewater. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think long term it's going to work. And
you saw last year when the 49ers played the Panthers, they ran roughshod all over them, and the Raiders love to run the ball with Josh Jacobs. So I could see the Raiders just bludgeon them. Even though the Carolina added defense, especially Derek Brown and Auburn, but still, I mean, these guys are all young, so you never know. I think the Raiders could just run all over them.
Yeah. So that's you just mentioned it. Like they're that young. Like you can't just plug in. Even if some of those rookies work out, that's still a defense full of a lot of rookies. It's highly doubtful that more than one of them will come in and be a stud in the league right away.
Not to mention Luke Kuechly retired too.
He did, and that's the other question. Who fills that leadership void on that side of the ball? And so there's a lot of question marks in Carolina, whereas with the Raiders, there aren't very many questions really. They know who they are, got a good offensive line, very good run blocking. Josh Jacobs was a revelation year one. I expect him to only get better in year two. They added some receivers, some burners. All they need is one of those guys to be able to take the top off. I think that's what Gruden was going for with his draft. He's like, I just want a dude that can take the top off of defense. Just make sure they have to back up so we can use Renfro and Waller underneath, which that was the problem for them last year. They couldn't stretch the field. Teams converged on them, and that's when you saw them just start getting their butts handed to them in the second half of the schedule. Was because that was going on. Teams condensed the field on them with no vertical threat. So I go with the Raiders here, but I don't love it.
This game's so exciting to me. I'm going to be watching this game probably more than some of the morning games that week because everyone was enamored by that LSU offense last year and Joe Brady. But I'm owning a lot of stock in Joe Brady. I just think that Carolina might be pulling out some stuff that the NFL is not ready to see yet because I think he is one of these like Kyle Shanahan like minds. And I think Matt Rule is also he's won everywhere he's gone. Now this is the NFL, so it's going to be a bigger test. But that I think the Raiders are the better team. They should win this game, but the fact that it's played on the East Coast gives me some hesitance.
It does. It's true. And like I told you this earlier, I'm pretty sure with week one that the NFL talked to Vegas. It was like, let's get some games that no one can get a beat on because that's where most of these games are. There's still a couple, and we're going to get to them. But one last comment on the Panthers. Was there a better hire in the offseason in terms of the guy that fits the mantra? What's the mantra for the Panthers? Keep pounding, right? Who do they go hire? Matt Rule, who loves to run the ball. His teams are renowned for their physicality. He turned Baylor, which was a finesse, air-it-out team that got run over defensively. He turned Baylor into a very physical team in just a couple of years. So great hire by them. So anyway, let's move on to the next one. Eagles and Washington. Finally, we get into games I love. At least I love them if you're gonna bet them. So the line on this one, it came down. That's why I love it. Washington is a 5-point underdog at home. What do you think of this one, Chris?
This is another exciting game. I think obviously the Eagles, the more talented team. Hell, they went to the playoffs last year with deck chairs and lawn furniture surrounding Carson Wentz. Yes, I love how you say that. And I think the Eagles will cover that spread. It's week one. I think, though, Ron Rivera is about to change this culture as long as Allen doesn't get in the way and the front office of the Redskins. But I think the Redskins could be some trouble for teams this year because they are going to be a tough physical team now with Ron Rivera there. They got Chase Young now on defense. We'll see what the quarterback situation is. His name just escaped me, but from Ohio State, Haskins.
Dwayne Haskins, yeah.
Is Haskins going to be the guy? We shall see. But I think that their defense this year in Washington, it's going to be pretty good. But I still don't think they'll be able to stop Philadelphia.
My thought on Haskins is no. I mean, like that's just from what I've seen. It's still early. I could be wrong, but my thought right now is I'm leaning towards he's not the guy, and they may even know that inside the organization. They might even know. But they still think it's not a big enough sample size. We have to give him more time, and they're going to give him this year. If things go really badly, they'll be in a good position to get a quarterback early in the draft next year. I love this game. What's that?
We talked about that, I think, earlier this offseason about how Rivera's playing with house money right now. And if I'm him and the Bengals take Joe Burrow, I am just so ecstatic because I don't want to take a quarterback at 2. I have a free, year or 2 to test Haskins. And if Haskins sucks, I'm not going to get fired because I didn't draft that guy. Exactly. I just gave him a shot. And if it blows up, okay, go get your guy.
Right. He's playing with house money. And another thing I love is he brought in Jack Del Rio. Del Rio might be my favorite defensive coordinator in the league off personality alone. I've just always liked Jack. I think he's a great defensive coordinator in the NFL. But a thought for this game and Ron Rivera in general, and I can't believe the Panthers fired him. I really was stunned because the players loved him down there. And if you've ever seen him behind the scenes, like, you can see why. He's a very good coach. Just from listening to him, I really like Ron Rivera as a coach. So was glad to see him get a second shot. I knew he would somewhere. I love the Eagles on the teaser with this one just to win the game. I think the Washington is overmatched. You have a bad quarterback. Again, I'm not a believer in Haskins. I don't think he's going to be the guy. The Eagles, I think, are the better team with a great coach, great team. They are my favorite to win the NFC East. I think they win this game, and I would bet this one. Eagles would be a +1 underdog with the teaser, but again, the line's good, the team is good. I like it.
Yep.
So, next game, we're moving on. Well, real quick question: would you bet it?
Yeah, I would feel comfortable betting Philadelphia here. I still think Washington is not there yet. I think, though, they have the potential to get there sometime mid-season or by the end of the year to be a really tough out. Mm-hmm. But I think come week 1, Philly does its thing and takes care of them.
I agree. Seahawks at Falcons. Battle of the Birds week 1.
This is another tough one because you got the West Coast team who is the superior team has to come now down to the East and play in the morning. So you have that factor again. Atlanta played really, really good the last 5 games. So they were on a roll last year, causing problems for people. Will they continue that? I don't think they will. I think they were playing for Quinn's job last year. And now that they got him another year, now everyone's saying Atlanta's going to be the bounce back year. Again, this is me talking as the guy who says the Panthers are going to be decent. I think Atlanta finishes almost last place in that division this year. I think they're really good, but Russell Wilson is the best quarterback in the NFL. I don't care. Fight me, Patrick Mahomes stands and Chiefs fans. Russell Wilson will single-handedly win a football game. And I think Seattle has better offensive skill players. We'll see what they do with the run game. Jesus, every one of their running backs got hurt last year. But I didn't even ask you what the line is. I'm just over here.
It's basically a pick 'em, but the Falcons are a +1, so they're the 1-point underdog at home.
Wow, give me Seattle on that all day. I don't care. I think even if Seattle wins by a field goal, I'll take that because I think Atlanta will do something to shoot themselves in the foot. I love Matt Ryan, but I think he will sabotage something. It's like I had him in fantasy the last 2 years, and he is the most infuriating fantasy quarterback because he puts up yards, but he just throws picks and plays horrible in the first half. And if you play horrible against Seattle in the first half, you're going to lose.
Yeah, well, the Seahawks are a team. They're committed. They have always wanted to be committed to the run game. Pete Carroll and that organization, they have wanted to run the ball at all times. They just have not always had the pieces. Like they had Marshawn Lynch, and that's how they won early on. It was defense, Marshawn Lynch. But Russell Wilson was always capable. Like he didn't put up big numbers for a few years there because it wasn't in the game plan for him to do that. He just don't turn the ball over, and we'll win the game. And they did. They won a Super Bowl, and they went to another one, should have won it. But, I like the Seahawks here. I don't love it just because of the fact, and there's really not a tease number I like because the Falcons, like you said, was that all a mirage we saw toward the end of last year? Was it just them playing, just playing their asses off for their head coach? Like, is that all we saw? And now, like, that they've saved him for now, like, we're going to go right back to the Atlanta we saw at the beginning of the year last year. I don't know, but not enough for me to love in this game, so I wouldn't take it at all, personally. Yeah. And maybe I'm overthinking it. It should just take the Seahawks. You got the better quarterback and whatnot. But
I mean, Seattle does. They seem to experiment kind of like how New England does at the beginning of the season, where they figure stuff out, and they do lose games early in the year that you're like, how did Seattle lose that game? Because by the end of the year, they're always knocking on the playoff doorstep, and then they're a super deadly team. So I could see Seattle, losing this game, but I just think they're the better team.
Yeah, and you're probably right. But so going on to the next game, and we're finally home. We get to talk about the team in the Bay. Cardinals at the 49ers. The line has come down to negative 8.5. What do you have to say about this one, Mr. Ferera? Put your heart aside and think with your brain for a few seconds.
The Cardinals almost beat the 49ers twice last year with a rookie and with not much else on offense. And they gave us fits all last year. In fact, we only beat them the second time on a last-second, Texas route to our third-string running back that Garoppolo just kind of threw up blindly, and we scored on it and beat them. They almost beat us twice. I actually said, thank God we get them week 1 before they actually get into a groove, and we have the entire offseason to game plan against this offense, because they're gonna be fireworks this year. Adding DeAndre Hopkins, you lose David Johnson, but who cares? Because Kenyon Drake looked like an absolute just tank last year for them. And again, the ageless wonder at wide receiver. You have Frank Gore at running back, who's the ageless wonder, and you got Larry Fitzgerald at the ageless wonder at wide receiver, who's still putting up numbers. Him, Nuke, Hopkins, and Christian Kirk could be like arguably one of the top 3 receiving core trios in the NFL. And Murray's just a nightmare to chase around. Yeah. So I think the 49ers win this game, but you said 8.5?
8.5.
Jesus, we could win this game by like a field goal, maybe 7. But it wouldn't shock me if we did beat them by 10 points. So I would not bet it, though, because I've seen what Arizona does to us.
Well, I mean, I was looking at this game, and I thought the same thing. I was like, I think the Niners win it, but they don't cover. That's my first thought, just because Kyler Murray is so fast when he plays. Like, he's so fast that he eliminates what the 49ers do. See, when you said that mobile quarterbacks give you trouble, I don't think Josh Allen's going to give you guys trouble, because he's not quick like these other guys. Like Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, they negate that 49ers pass rush, because the Niners can't just go after them. Like, if they do that, like, they're just going to step up, move under the tackle, and just roll out of the pocket. And now it's like, crap, we got to defend the play that was called. Now we got to defend the play that he's about to make. And it's like, so that's why the Cardinals give the Niners trouble. So do the Seahawks. But that's also why they kick the crap out of the Rams. Generally, they got a target back there. They can just go back and plant him. Mm-hmm. But I think this game, I agree. My assessment is in line with yours. I think the Niners win it, but they don't cover.
You like how I took my total unbiased hat off and didn't even talk about the 49ers there. I just talked about Arizona.
You did. I was proud of you.
I mean, Arizona, the reason I think Arizona last year was so bad is their defense was awful, and Kingsbury is an offensive mind, but they went and got arguably one of the best defensive players in this draft in Isaiah Simmons. So he's going to be terrified. He's going to be chasing George Kittle around the field the entire game. So he'll be a nightmare to run around.
Precisely. They needed that big athletic guy to cover these athletic tight ends we're seeing popping up all over the league. We got Noah Fant, we got George Kittle, Gronkowski was like that. I mean, maybe I don't know what he's going to be like now. We got to see what Gronk does. Yeah. But the Isaiah Simmons is there on defense. The Cardinals worked hard to try and address their defense, and I think they should be better on that side. But I mean, the Cardinals are going to be really improved this year. I really look for the Cardinals to make a step in the right direction, maybe even past the Rams, maybe.
Yeah.
So
I could see that. A lot of people that are picking them as sleeper wild card team this year if they can put it all together because of how good their offense will be.
Well, now that half the league makes the playoffs, maybe they will. Exactly. But Chargers and Bengals is the next matchup. Bengals are a 2.5-point dog at home.
2.5-point dog. The Chargers are the favorite here.
Yep.
That makes sense. Joe Burrow coming home to Ohio to play in front of his home fans. I would love to see Joe Burrow just rip the Chargers a new one in this game. Will that happen? Look at this. The Bengals last year, A.J. Green got hurt, and Andy Dalton had arguably his worst year as a quarterback. And I've spent the last 2 weeks talking crap to Cowboy fans saying Andy Dalton is going to take Dak's job. But I think Joe Burrow has weapons. If he can just play competent and not be a rookie, which we're seeing now in the NFL, that rookie quarterbacks come in and win right away. You no longer have to stub your toe for 2-3 seasons. AJ Green, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, you got weapons. And if he can get the ball to these guys, now the offensive line I think is a problem there, so he might be on his ass for a lot of the game.
He might be, but they do get their tackle towards ACL, missed the whole season last year. He'll be back.
He will.
So we'll see if he I forget his name, from Alabama, but he'll be back for them. So some help there maybe.
The Chargers, though, like you said in the beginning, their defense is just dynamic. I mean, that D-line is, top 5, I think, in the NFL with Bosa and Ingram. I think they added a D tackle, Linval Joseph from Minnesota. From Minnesota. They went and drafted arguably the best linebacker in the draft in Kenneth Murray. Their secondary, we'll see, but I think that they'll have enough to make Burrow have, a rude awakening to the NFL.
I think Burrow couldn't have asked for a worse start, honestly. In terms of the defense he's playing, as much as I talk noise to Brandon about the Chargers team and Tyrod Taylor, who is still a journeyman and not the answer at quarterback, and we all know that, but defensively, there's probably not a more talented team in the league. They're as talented as anyone in the league in the front 7 all the way to the back. You got Derwin James. They picked up Chris Harris from the Broncos. They already had a good secondary, just got even better. And they picked up Kenneth Murray in the first round to address the middle linebacker spot, which was an issue. They picked up Linval Joseph to address the interior run game, which was a factor for them, or was a problem for them. And now there really aren't any weaknesses on the Chargers defense anymore. And Burrow's going to have to contend with Nick Bosa or Joey Bosa and Ingram coming after him all day. It's a hell of a lot tougher than college, where a couple of dudes who won't play in the league are coming after you every week. But
not to mention, I don't think the Bengals have enough on defense too. I mean, they got Geno Atkins at tackle, but other than that, it's really not a dynamic defense. And even though Tyrod has weapons back there, and we'll see how Eckler is as the go-to guy now all season. He proved it a little bit though last year when Gordon held out. I just think the Chargers, they're just more talented than Cincinnati.
I think the roster makes the difference here, because Tyrod Taylor won't lose the game. He won't win it, but I don't think he's going to have to. Yeah. And I'm also interested to see how the Chargers use Eckler. That's the other question. I think, will they run the same offense? If they do, then I think Eckler's a great running back in that offense. But if they're planning to go more under center, then if they're planning to do under center, go with zone scheme and stuff, then it would have made sense to hold on to Gordon. It would have made sense to try and keep him if you're going to do that, and upgrade the offensive line, which they did through free agency. But the route they went, and they shipped Gordon off to Denver, and they have Eckler now, I'm interested to see how they use him. But in this game, to get things back to the point, I wouldn't bet it, because there's too much of a question mark. Maybe Joe Burrow shows up and balls out. Maybe he busts. I would doubt it, because I personally think he's going to make it, but not enough for me to like here. I wouldn't take it at all. What are your thoughts?
What was the points again?
The points, Bengals are 2.5-point underdogs, so need the Chargers to win by a field goal.
I'd take San Diego in that, or Los Angeles. I still call them San Diego.
It's San Diego.
I would take them, because they just need to win by a field goal, and I think I'll bet against a rookie in his first start. Yeah, I'll take that.
Well, again, if you held me up to the wall and said you scum, you better take this game. If you held me up against the wall and put a gun to my head and pick it, I would take the Chargers. But since I don't have to, I won't do anything with it. All right, next one. This one, the headliner, probably the headline game for Week 1: the Buccaneers at the Saints.
Yep.
Saints actually are opening at a pretty big favorite. And I'm not actually, at first I was surprised at the line here, but then I thought about it some more and I'm like, that actually does make sense because it will be the Bucs' first game, Brady's first game. And because of all this COVID stuff, probably going to be less time to prepare with your teammates than usual. Bucs at the Saints. Saints are a 4-point favorite at home.
I'm not betting this game. I'm just sitting and eating my popcorn and watching Tom and Drew battle it out because I don't know who the hell's going to win this game. Obviously, Drew has the advantage because it's in New Orleans and they haven't had an offseason in Tampa. It would not shock me if Tom won this game by 17 points. It would not shock me if the Buccaneers imploded in this game and the Saints beat them by 17-20. I think it's going to be a great game. I have no clue who's going to win. Obviously, I think the number is right. Saints 4.5. I'm not betting that though.
A valid point. But I'm bold, or at least I think I see gold here. I would take the Buccaneers as on the teaser as usual. I only bet teasers in the NFL. I would take the Bucs as a 10-point underdog. I would take them. I think it's a good number. You get 10 points total, and you're going against. They're Saints. I think it'll be a battle. It'll be a divisional game, two teams that know each other. And I think I agree it's going to be a great game, but I want to make some money off it too. So I would take the Bucs plus 10. I don't know that they win, but I'm pretty sure they cover. They would cover 10.
Yeah.
But there's a lot about this matchup.
I'm more, like I said earlier, I'm more interested in the second matchup, Week 9, when they've been able to figure some things out. Week 1, to me, I think Tampa has the skill players, like you said, to win this game, and they shored up some stuff on defense. Their defense was freaking nasty last year too. So
yeah, with the second, what's a hidden virtue about Tampa Bay's defense? I don't know if many people know this. Their defense was actually kind of good last year. Number 1 against the run. Very good run defense with Sue inside, and then I think it's Vita Vea.
Vita Vea from Washington.
Yeah, he plays in there too, and they were excellent against the run.
They ended the year top. They ended the year last year number 5 overall defense.
Yeah, and the only reason the points were messed up was because all those pick sixes that Jameis was throwing and all those interceptions he's throwing like that. That was the main reason. So the Bucs are better than people think on defense, is what I would say. It's kind of a hidden thing. Everyone's like, "Oh, the Buccaneers, they suck as usual." Like, it's actually not true. But it'll be a great game. I
saw a stat. Sorry to cut you off, but I saw a stat that said the Buccaneers have 5 primetime games this year. With Tom Brady now, from 2000 to 2019, they had, I believe, less than 7 primetime games or something over that stretch. So just this season, they're getting so much play. It's the Tom Brady effect.
Yeah, the NFL is so good at this. That's what they do, and that's why that's why people love the NFL. They do things like this. They take their best teams, put them in prime time. The games everyone's going to watch with the best announcers. Yes, Chris Collinsworth is one of the best announcers. I've actually, if you haven't, by the way, I want to tell everybody a podcast you need to go listen to is Pro Football Focus, PFF. They're very good. If you want to actually listen and learn football for guys who just talk football and they just talk the ins and outs of the actual game and players, strengths, weaknesses, things like that. Great podcast, very informative. If you haven't done it, just go check it out. So a couple games we got to get. We got 3 games left. Cowboys and Rams is our next one.
This one's tough. What's the
Rams
line?
Rams are a 2.5 point dog at home, opening up that new stadium. What do you think?
You got a brand new head coach in Dallas. You got brand new offense. Dak, great weapons. I don't know what to think of that Dallas defense, though. And then the Rams, it's the exact opposite. I don't know what to think of their offense because it's the same thing every week. They run that three receivers, 1 tight end with Goff, and he's just back there like a statue. They got rid of Gurley because they realized this guy doesn't have any legs left, and they brought in Akers, the running back from Florida State. he could be a sleeper in that offense and be really nice for them. The Rams, I mean, they went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago because they were really dynamic. It's going to go either one of two ways. I think the Cowboys win this game, or I think the Rams are able to get back to what they did so well 2 years ago that got them to the Super Bowl. I don't think that's going to happen, though, because I think the Rams went all in on that Super Bowl run, paid everybody, and now you just have an old, expensive team. And I don't know. I don't know. This game is another one that is because I don't trust either of these teams.
Yeah. For me, I don't know if it's that I don't trust both of them, but with the Cowboys, they fight defensively. To me, last year was a lot of it was a coordinator problem. I think Rod Marinelli did not do a good job with that unit. A lot of last year, the Cowboys were that team with lots of names that doesn't live up to its billing. Had lots of dudes on the defense that have names. They have DeMarcus Lawrence. They had Robert Quinn. I think he's gone now. They had Sean Lee. Though they had that great young core of linebackers. They had Byron Jones, who's one of the best corners in the league. He's gone now. So the point was they had talent and they didn't perform up to the level. The question's going to be with the change of coordinator. I think Mike Nolan is now the coordinator there.
Yep.
The Cowboys strike me as a team this year that is ready to take a step. They really do. Drafting CeeDee Lamb. They addressed the safety issue in free agency a little bit. I can't remember who they signed, but they picked someone up.
They signed HaHa Clinton Dix.
That's it, HaHa Clinton Dix. So that was why when they were in the draft, because I was thinking to myself, why the heck are they taking CeeDee Lamb? This strikes me as we're going for the tickets, not the need. Playing chess when I'm playing checkers. This is why I'm not on the inside. They knew probably that they were going to address safety in free agency. They probably knew that. And so they're well, let's just go get the guy we want. So, by the way, I thought that was funny. CeeDee Lamb's going to wear number 10. And then
Jerry wanted him to wear 88.
Jerry wanted to wear 88. And so I was like, if Jerry Jones tells you to wear 88, you wear 88.
How have they not retired that number?
I don't know.
Everybody's wearing that number. I don't understand. If I'm Michael Irvin, I'm kind of pissed. Why is everyone wearing my number?
Oh, I'm not. If I was Michael Irvin, I'd be honored. Heck yeah, they want to make a big deal out of my jersey. Don't retire it. Just give it to the guy you think's going to be the next big thing.
And the Cowboys were able to. I thought they were so dumb in round one, but then the second and third round, they were able to draft Darius Slay's younger brother from I believe he's from Alabama, but Slay at corner and that's a position that they really needed was secondary because they lost so many guys in the secondary. Yeah. They lost Byron Jones, they lost Jeff Heath, so they got a brand new secondary. We'll see how it is. Okay. I think Dallas should win this game, but this is a crazy game because this is a brand new stadium and who knows, all of LA could show up excited. There could be no fans because COVID doesn't let any fans in there. And the Rams, I just don't trust them. So I would probably take Dallas in this.
Yeah. I don't love this game and I personally wouldn't bet it, but I like the Cowboys too. There's too much about the Rams I don't like. Number one, they're soft against the run, which is a problem, and they've tried to address it. Michael Brockers is pretty good. They have him inside, but Aaron Donald he's a flash defensive tackle to me. He's not gonna give you a great run stop and defensive line. That's one of the reasons he's a penetrator. Teams actually take advantage of him in the run game lots of times if you watch. They actually they'll run traps. They will just let him run where he wants to go and just
let him run upfield and then just push him out of the way.
Right. That's what they do. And so, so you get the big playability with him, but you also have to, it's boom and bust with a guy like that. It's not like a Jarrell Casey who just builds a wall up front and, a real wall, not like Trump's wall. But I think you go with the Cowboys here. I think you have to, but I wouldn't bet it myself. So
I'm not happy about it because the Cowboys scored 9 points against the Eagles to end the year last year, so I have no faith in them.
Right. It's I'll take the Cowboys, but I'm not happy about it. But, all right. So the next game we're taking. This is another game. I love it.
We're now Monday Night Football.
To quote Colin Cowherd, I like it. I love it. Steelers at Giants. Giants are a 3-point dog at home. Chris, take it away. What do you think?
Now, this all depends on if Ben Roethlisberger's elbow is okay, because I think if his elbow is okay, I think the Steelers win this game handily. Now, if he's not playing and they got to play Mason Rudolph or Duck Hodges, then it becomes interesting.
Yeah.
But I am going to go off the notion that Ben is going to be playing. I think the Steelers have arguably one of the top 3 offensive lines in football. I don't know if James Conner is the guy, but I think the Steelers are just a better coach team. You have the Giants with a brand new head coach who I don't even know if he's a head coach, Joe Judge. He was a special teams coordinator.
Yeah, that was a puzzling hire.
Yeah. So, I mean, they'll probably be really, coached up and be buttoned up because they got that Patriot coach in there. But as we've seen, Patriot coaches, besides apparently Brian Flores right now in Miami, they mostly flop. So it's funny though. New York has the best like athletes in this game. I think quarterback, they have the better athlete in Daniel Jones over Ben right now at the age. Running back, they have the best running back in Saquon. But I don't know if I trust the Giants.
I'll tell you, I'll give you my thought on this game.
Take it away. This is a game that I'd be nervous. I'd be nervous to take it, but I think I would trust Pittsburgh more than I would New York. But
that's one of the biggest reasons. The organization. I love the Steelers organization. Second thing about them is that the Steelers front seven, I think it's really a question of quarterbacks. And I'm not a big believer in Danny Dimes, as they call him. I don't love Daniel Jones. I know he's a rookie. Maybe I'm being hard on him, but I'm not a huge fan. And I think the Steelers win this one. I love this game. I know you're not now. I'm breaking a rule doing this one. You're not supposed to tease through 0. Right now, the Giants are a 3-point underdog. I can make this game so that the Steelers are a 3-point underdog. I'm going through 0. I'm not supposed to do that. But you make exceptions when you're counting cards or when you think you know what you win. I've been burned by it before, but I don't think I get burned this time. I think I take the Steelers as a 3-point dog, and I'll take my 3 games and my low payout, and I'll cry about it all the way to the bank. But I think the Steelers win this game handily. I think they handle it's like you said. It's weird because the athletes kind of are on the Giants team, but the edge I think goes over to the Steelers because they got the better quarterback. I'm assuming Ben will be healthy, and the defense is just lights out good. The defense is going to be suffocating, and I think
when Minkah Fitzpatrick showed up there last year, that Steelers defense became unreal.
Changed everything. It took them. They went from being a good team in the front seven to being a great defense that was complete front to back. Because now you got a guy in the secondary who makes plays and he gets a lot of, and he covers things up. That was the problem for the Steelers for years. Can't cover people. The way to go after the Steelers was throw the ball. And he's kind of helped fix that. They're now a good defense all the way through. So I take the Steelers. You would do the same. You're not happy about this one either. But
I think Danny Dimes has some magic to him. I'm not sold on him. I'm not buying stock in him. But I do think he could wreck someone's bet in their teaser.
Yeah, he wrecked mine.
In fact, he wrecked my fantasy championship last year because I decided to start him in week 17, trying to roll the hot hand, and he laid a turd and screwed me.
Yeah, I tell you what, if there is actual visible stock in Danny Dimes, I'd like to burn it, honestly. But moving on to the finale, the last game, it's kind of underwhelming. Sorry, Shane, but
I disagree. I think this is actually going to be a good game.
Titans let's just talk about it then. The Titans at Broncos. Broncos are a 1.5-point favorite in Mile High Stadium. -1.5. What do you think of this one, Chris?
That's crazy. I can't believe they have Denver as the favorite here. I honestly, that makes me want to take Tennessee in this game. I thought Tennessee was about to be like a 4-point favorite, even on the road. Like,
Vegas hates Tennessee.
They hate them, but I mean, we mentioned already the Broncos added Jarrell Casey, so their run defense is going to be better. I mean, you have that D line is nasty. Chubb, Casey, and Miller out there. They have a great safety and Justin Simmons. You lost some of your corners, and we already talked about the offense. I think Denver is trying to go shot for shot with Kansas City because their skill players are great. Tennessee, though, has a good defense, and they have a bowling ball at running back, and it doesn't even matter if you can play stout defense. Mm-hmm. This dude will carry 5 of your guys, and I could see Derrick Henry, going for 200 yards in this game, even though the Broncos have a great defense, and then them winning.
Yeah.
The thing I'm bullish more on Tannehill. I don't know how Tannehill will do after an offseason of being really good like he was last year.
Well, and I think this line reflects that. I think it reflects the odds makers not buying Tannehill, basically. I think that's what this is. And it's kind of odd. Casey goes to the Broncos, and he's going to turn around and play the Titans in week 1. I think that's kind of great. But it was a great pickup by the Broncos, by the way, getting Jarrell Casey, because that was the issue for the Broncos, just like the Chargers. Had the edge rushers, but we don't have the stout interior linemen to stop the run. So everyone just runs the ball against us. They just don't get into passing situations. They just run it and stay out of situations where we can, turn Chubb and Von Miller loose on the edge. Can't do it if they never have to throw the ball, especially not on a 5-step, which is when that's where you want them. I want them in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, because now we can send Von Miller after you and have fun. But I think that in this game, Broncos-Titans, two quarterbacks, whether it's just a wash on both sides, I wouldn't touch this game at all, not even with your money.
I love the head coach matchup. I love me some defensive-minded coaches, and you got Vrabel and Fangio, man. Yeah. So Vrabel's going to be out there planking before the game, getting them fired up.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's pissed that they lost to KC. I mean, they had a Cinderella run. I was actually, looking back on it, I didn't want to play Tennessee in the Super Bowl as a 49er fan. I was like, give me the quarterback that I can rush after. I don't want to try to tackle Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I see. I personally am of the opinion that the 49ers would have liked to play a team that was not as explosive offensively, but it's neither here nor there. Water under the bridge. But with this game with the Broncos,
hindsight always 20/20.
Hindsight's 20/20.
I think this is going to be a good game. I think this is going to be a great game to end week 1, though, because the Broncos. Okay, here's what I'll ask you: Drew Lock or Ryan Tannehill?
I mentioned that a minute ago. I don't know. And that's exactly why I won't touch it. And that's why I said I wouldn't touch it with your money, because the quarterback situation, it's total wash to me. I don't know what I've got in Drew Lock, and I don't know for sure that Tannehill last year wasn't a one-off. And not to mention, he failed to come up big in the playoffs when they needed him to throw. Like when late in the game against the Chiefs, Henry has kind of gotten bottled up. Like they've decided Henry's not going to beat us. You got to do something, and he couldn't do anything in the second half. That's really when the game went off the rails for them, was about midway through the 3rd quarter, when it became clear Tannehill was going to have to make some plays for them to win that game, and he couldn't do it. Yeah. So, like I told you, I don't know who's got the edge here. I think it's a great matchup. Should be a great game. Two teams that are very similar to one another.
It is also, you know what? I might have to take Denver in this. Now I know why the line is at 1. You know why? Because this game's at Mile High.
Yeah.
And it's the first game of the season where players are going to be out of shape. They're not in full game shape because they won't have had like a mini camp or a training camp really. Yeah. So I could see that's why Vegas put this line here, because they think just the home field advantage will give the Broncos a huge edge.
And that could very well be. I'm actually leaning the same way. I thought about it a little more, and I'm like, I give the slight edge to the Broncos. I just have to, because I think they're just a little better version. But anyway, those are our thoughts on the opening schedule, some week 1 analysis, looking at all those games. Obviously, I will look at these games closer as we get closer to the season, but we're still a long way off. Got 3 months to get ready. Well, 4 months really to get ready for these games, and really just to get ready for the season. But Chris, I want to thank you for coming on. We have reached the end of our material. Is there anything you would like to say? Anything like to give a shout out to? Anything like that?
No, thanks for having me. I love talking football. I'm so happy that we had some football on TV, even if it was just hypotheticals with schedules and everything. It's so fun to I'm just ready for football season. And yeah, this was fun. Again, I'm going to have to write all of our picks down, and I'll have to look back at them in 4 months and see if we're completely wrong or if we should have thrown some money on these. So,
well, we'll probably revise as we get closer.
Yeah. but no, this was fun. This was fun, Mike.
Initial thoughts out of the way. So, Chris, again, thanks for coming on, and to all the listeners, anyone who is who was listening out there, I appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you again next time. I will be coming out with some previews for every team. I will probably make some videos soon regarding each team's offseason and what to expect from them moving forward, some storylines to watch. But this has been The Blitz. I am Michael Barnaud. This was Chris Ferera as my guest. We'll see you next time.